we just have a quick announcement about the book sale coming up?
Oh, absolutely. I think,
I forgot to remind.
yeah, I'm like, I think I put one in, but let me double check that.
Oh,
Yes.
super. Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello? Okay. Welcome to the First UU Church of Indiana, Pennsylvania. At this time, we ask our online participants to mute their microphone until coffee hour. Please rise up in body and voice and spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, 153, Oh, I Woke Up This Morning. Words will be in your gray hymnal and posted on screen by our tech hosts.
This morning with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mom, stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mom, stay on freedom. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I was walking and talking with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Walking and talking with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Walking and talking with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was singing and praying with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Singing and praying with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Singing and praying with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mom, and it was stay on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
I became a UU because when my parents raised me, I wasn't really raised a religion. I didn't go to have a formal church to go to or anything like that. So I came up with the idea of, God and everything on my own. And then when I went to different churches and I saw that they kind of wanted to tell me how I had to believe in God and everything, that wasn't for me. Like when I went to the Catholic church, and I was going through the RCIA because I was marrying a girl who was Catholic. I went through the RCIA program twice because the first time they didn't think that I was ready to be Catholic because I asked too many questions. So, yeah. So I love Unitarianism, UU, because, I can kind of come up with my own ideas. I always say, when people ask about Unitarian, I'm always saying, we have these 7 principles, and basically don't be a jerk and you'll be okay. So that's kind of what I tell people about us. So anyway, that's a little bit about why I became a UU. And my parents are huge UUs, so I, knew about them. And yeah, it was just good. So on behalf of the entire congregation, I welcome you here this morning, whether in person, Zoom, or via YouTube. If you're here for the first time, welcome. Please take a moment to fill out a blue visitor's card. You can find one in your hymnal or in the entryway. This will help make sure you receive the information about our church's programs and services. If you are joining us online, send an email to office@firstuuindianapa.org to become connected to our newsletter. On Zoom, please note that chat button below the screen and use that feature for greetings, chalice lighting, and joys and concerns during the service. The First Unitarian Universalist Church of Indiana, Pennsylvania is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. We are a self-governing congregation united in a web of mutuality that creates our denomination. We have no creed or doctrine, teaching that all individuals have the right and responsibility to discern and follow their own spiritual paths. We come together to support and assist each other on our journeys and to build our beloved community together. I invite you to stay after the service to greet one another and rejoice in our mutual presence. We will open up the microphones on Zoom for coffee hour, and folks here in person are welcome to greet those joining electronically at that time as well. And we are working on that, so hopefully soon we'll have a more, you can have a bigger discussion, if you will. Special announcements. April 23rd and 24th, the New Century Book Club will hold a used book sale here in Grauer Hall. Book donations can be brought to the church starting today during the office hours, Monday, Thursday, and Friday, 11 a.m. till 2:45 p.m., and Sundays between 11:30 and 1:30. The book club is still welcoming volunteers to set up and sell books. If you're interested, please contact Sarah Steelman. And now I invite you to take a gentle breath and settle yourself into a spirit of worship.
So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls wrapped in their cloaks upon their shoulders. Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt writes, "You'll need to travel light. Take what you can carry, a book, a poem, a battered tin cup, your child strapped to your chest, clutching your necklace in one hot, possessive fist. So the dough isn't ready. So your heart isn't ready. You haven't said goodbye to the places where you hid as a child, to the friends who aren't interested in the journey, to the graves you've tended. But if you wait until you feel fully ready, you may never take the leap at all, and infinity is calling you forth out of this birth canal and into the future's wide expanse. Learn to improvise flat cakes without yeast. Learn to read new alphabets. Wear God like a cloak and stride forth with confidence. You won't know where you're going, but you have the words of our sages, the songs of our mothers, the inspiration wrapped in your kneading bowl. Trust that what you carry will sustain you, and take the first step out the door.
Now, let us light our chalice flame. On Zoom, you may tape "The flame is lit" where you are, and say where you're joining us from in the chat bar. Today this flame burns, reminder of the burning bush, of holy ground, of a voice in the wilderness that calls to our souls, saying, "Go forth, do justice, seek peace, be my people."
And now I invite you to sing with us our hymn number 1018, Come and Go With Me. It'll be in your teal hymnals and on screen.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound.
So today, we are centering our worship on Exodus. For this is the time when Passover happens for the Jewish community. It's a celebration and a remembrance of the story of Exodus. The story of Exodus tells of a time when the Israelite people who had moved to Egypt following Joseph, who some of you might remember from our Bible studies class, Joseph with his amazing, colorful cloak. So the Israelites moved. And then when a new power came to rule over them who did not remember how Joseph had helped, they were made to be slaves, oppressed and made to work for the Egyptians. And so it came to happen that God, in this story, sent someone named Moses to tell the Israelites it is time to go. It is time to rise up. It is time to no longer be enslaved. And to tell the Pharaoh, an Egyptian king of the time, that he must stop the oppression. He must let the Israelites go, or bad things were going to happen. And Pharaoh went, yeah, sure, maybe. But I need workers. Pharaoh said no. And so plagues came to the land. Frogs, gnats, hail and lightning, and other things that were even more gross. And Pharaoh would say after each one, yes, you should go. But then things would seem normal for a time, and he would say, no, back to work. And so when the last plague came, and Pharaoh said, you should go, the people packed up without waiting for him to change his mind. So fast they couldn't wait for their bread to rise, and the dough that they made, rolled thin to bake fast, was the first matzah, turning out almost like crackers in the oven. The Seder plate remembers this story with a bitter herb, maror, often represented by horseradish paste, recalling how bitter and unpleasant oppression and slavery can feel. Charoset, a dish made from apples and nuts, cut up to look like bricks and mortar that the Israelites were forced to make. A lamb's shank bone, or sometimes a beet for vegetarians, to represent the blood of sacrifice, that nothing comes without a price. Karpas, a green vegetable, to remember new growth and renewal, yet dipped in salt water, to remember that as we renew ourselves, we must remember how sad oppression has made us and seek not to do that to others. And then, depending on your plate, an egg representing cycles of life and death and renewal. Matzah, to represent that haste in leaving. If you want to try some matzah, we will have some at coffee hour. It's kind of like crackers if you haven't had it before. But this is a story that gets told each year. And next week, when Passover begins, it will be told again, because it is important that we always remember that sometimes new things come even when you're not ready. Sometimes it is time to go and to do something different. And at this time, it is time to go to your classes. But before that, we will pass the peace with one another. I invite you to do so, especially with anyone you haven't met before or haven't seen in a while. May your minds be open to new learning. May your lips Speak truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
Time for our centering words from Exodus 3:7-14. Then the Lord said, I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their masters. Indeed, I know their suffering, and I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians and bring them out of the land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites and the Hittites, the Amorites and I guess is what happens when you don't grow up with an education, Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. Thank you so much. The cry of the Israelites has now come to me. I have also seen how the Egyptians oppressed them. So come, I will send you a Pharaoh and to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, who am I that should go to the Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? The Lord said, I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that it is I who sent you. When you have brought people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on his mountain. But Moses said to God, if I come to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said, Moses, I am who I am. God said further, thus you shall say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. During our centering music, if you have joys and sorrows you'd like to be spoken aloud, please write them in the chat online or on a note card and place it in a basket in the sanctuary to be woven into our shared pastoral prayer.
So, having fled from Egypt to escape punishment for killing a slave driver, Moses took up the quiet life of a shepherd, and one day, when he was alone in the mountains, a bush burst into flames in front of him. He knew immediately that God was in the fire, for a voice told him that he now stood on holy ground. God had seen the suffering of the Israelites and told Moses to go to Egypt and to plead with the Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. Moses wondered why the Israelites would follow him of all people. He asked for a sign, a name that would give him credibility with them. And God responded, "I am who I am," and signed off, apparently. But it was kind of like that. What's in a name, and why do we ask? If someone tells you their name, they give you a way to get their attention, telling you something about themselves, offering what could be the threshold for a closer relationship. They dispel some of the mystery of who they are, implying they might give up even more of that mystery as your acquaintance deepens. The God of this passage, though, is not planning to do that. Not then, not ever. Moses and the rest of us perhaps just have to get used to the idea that God, the divine, is radically and mysteriously and beautifully different from anything we can shape or control or even describe, and that God remains free from being defined by us. We can only hope that once in a while, likely when we least expect it, we might find ourselves on holy ground. Maybe there's no burning bush in those moments, but we will, as a result, become more sure of who we are, more confident in what we must do. God leads, not by becoming more attractive or more visible to us, but by becoming, in these moments, unavoidable. I am who I am. I am, as it turns out, with God's 5-word self-descriptor, I am who you must confront. So when these confrontations arise, when we are asked to do what is difficult but right, something crucially important to our future integrity and happiness happens. And may we recognize this, even when we do not understand why, even when we are not sure of where we are being led. We now come to that time where we affirm the values that we share as Unitarian Universalists. So now, if you will read with me from your order of service or the screen, we covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, a right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. And we now offer a time of silence during which you are invited to come forward to light a candle representing a joy or a sorrow, a concern or a celebration in your life. If you have not already done so, you may hand a written joy or sorrow to me as you light your candle. So now, let us join hearts and minds together in a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and of love, that which we call divine and holy. Today we gather one with another to share in the celebrations of our lives, in the holding of our sorrow and our concerns. As we gather, give us space to share and to be held in community. Today we have joys to share. Faye Bradwick shares that her post-surgical follow-up this week showed that 2 cataract surgeries last month were very successful. Yay! And with an encouragement, if anyone is delaying their cataract surgeries, to go get them. They're worth it. And we share a hope as well for trying new things. In community, we also hold the sorrows and the troubles of our lives, hoping that shared burdens may be a little less burdensome. May we hold Matt Baumer and his family in our thoughts as they attend a family funeral this weekend in Ohio. Tina Purdue, her husband Mike, and Mike's sister, who has been moved to hospice care. Let us hold them in our dearest thoughts and in white light. And let us also hold in care all those in Ukraine struggling with the ongoing invasion, with the loss of homes, with the loss of peace and security. Let us remember that there are always places in need. Let us hold gratitude for all those who offer help in troubled times. I'd like to also lift up a care for my own great aunt and grandmother who are struggling with health challenges in this past week. And a bittersweet piece of news that I've been accepted as a candidate for the Unitarian Universalist Church in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I am so glad of the opportunity and so sorrowful that this will mean that our time together is coming to an end. And so, for all the blessings of our lives, let us give thanks. For all those things in the changing of seasons and the turning of time, let us hold space. And for those holding sorrows, may you find peace and comfort in community. Amen, and blessed be.
At the First UU Church of Indiana, we share the plate by giving a portion of every week's donations to an organization outside the church. This is part of our congregation's mission to promote compassionate and responsible thought and action in the world by giving back to the community around us every week. So when you give this morning, know that you're making an impact not only for the congregation, but also in the wider community through our shared giving. Today, we are going to be giving to Family Promise, and this month, and I just wanted to say a little bit about Family Promise. I am on the board. I've been on the board for about 7 years, and I was the president for 3. Our mission is to help homeless families regain their housing and independence and their dignity. I think dignity is a huge word because that's what we have with our first principle. Together with our faith community, and that's all the faith community, not just Christian, not just like any of the faith community. We provide shelter, education, and support to families in need. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is we have something called Night Without a Bed. And it was basically to bring awareness to homelessness, and you slept anywhere besides your bed. I slept in my car. At the time, I slept in my 2003 Honda Civic, so you can see the size of me. It's not the most comfortable thing to sleep in overnight. I didn't have any kids, so it was just me, and that was it. I remember, first of all, it was in the summer, so I had to have the windows down because it was hot. And I knew if I had the car on, I'd be using the air conditioning. If I was using the air conditioning, I would run out of gas, so then I have to pay for more gas. So if I had the windows down and I had kids, the kids would actually might have problems, or like somebody might try to abduct my kids, or get the stuff that I have in my car, because that's the only place I have to store things, whatever I have as far as belongings. And so I gave myself $5 for the night. I walked into Sheetz. I was at Ben Franklin Sheets, and when I walked in, I was like, all right, well, I need some food. So I go and look at, there's 2 hot dogs for $1, or there's a bowl of fruit for $3.50. I was like, of course, what am I going to do? I'm going to get the hot dogs for $1. I'm going to get my kids the hot dogs for $1. That means that malnutrition kids, because I don't have the money to buy the fruit. So this is what people are doing every day. And then a gas truck came at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was out there for 2 hours. So I was sitting, so I couldn't sleep then. And it was really an eye-opening experience for me because I had never done that before. And there are people in Indiana County that are doing that every day. We get to go back to our houses, we get our beds and everything. There are people that are either, in their cars, in the woods, or also, couch surfing with family. We don't see homelessness in Indiana County because they're hidden. In the urban areas, you see them on the street. Now, around here, you don't see that. So we do have homelessness. Family Promise does have an 83% success rate, and we had 5 families go from homeless to homeowner, and 1 did it in 3 years. We're also getting people that are on food stamps and Medicaid and getting them off of that. So now they have dignity because they feel that, hey, I earned this. And then when they graduate from the program, they have houses, jobs, and cars. So we're making it so people that might not have had a lot of hope, we gave them hope, and that's a good thing. Now we also have our POPS program, which is a prevention of poverty. So in order to make it so people don't become homeless, we teach people who may not have had a formal education with finances, how to budget money, what wants and needs are. Interesting thing was when that $600 stimulus check came, if you went to Walmart, every TV, or they had like 5 TVs, all at $5.99 and below. Instead of having promoting, hey, you know what, let's pay your electric, because if you buy a big screen TV in 3 months you no longer have electric to watch on that big screen TV. I hear people say, oh my God, this person who's in poverty or homeless has a nicer phone than me. People in poverty and homelessness are they're kind of they don't see an upside. So when they get money, they have to buy that expensive phone. But I would be like, well, I don't want that as expensive phone because I know in 3 months I have to pay the bill, or 4 months or whatever. Don't think like that. So what we're doing is making sure that they understand the wants and needs, and successfully getting people out of the program and bringing the dignity back to them. So that's a little bit what I wanted to say about Family Promise. So I hope that you can donate and look us up on familypromiseofindianacounty.com and see more about what we do. Thank you.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
With gratitude, we receive this morning's offering. So, as As Bible study class continues, as Passover draws near, I've been rereading Exodus. And this time around, what has really struck me as I delve into the story, wondering what it means for us in this time, is that when we read the children's book versions, or we skim or select short passages, it seems really neat. Special people, heroes, quickly do something transformative, helped by God. And then the story concludes with a rainbow like Noah, or with the parting of seas like Moses. But when you start reading through, when you start reading all the way through, what it turns out is that these stories are messy. These stories are full of complaining and kvetching. Well, one of the things that Jewish people do before Passover specifically is to eliminate mess, specifically chametz, the leavened bread and bread particles. Chametz is any leavened product of any of 5 types of grains prohibited to eat during the Passover holiday in memory of how the Israelites prepared for their journey into the wilderness, escaping oppression. But this year especially, I guess I'm wondering how well it serves us to try and eliminate all of that stickiness and uncertainty and the mess, particularly in these stories. I can scrub a stove. I can get rid of crumbs from a toaster oven. I can wrap my whole kitchen in aluminum foil so nothing touches anything that has ever touched a bit of yeast. But I can't get rid of the memories of 2 years in ministry when it felt dangerous even to sit together and have a conversation because there was a plague. The times when we had to trust one another, and it took all that we had to do so because we couldn't sit down and have a conversation. The ongoing messiness of trying to live with one another in community where people have widely different expectations and needs around safety and contagion. Even now, there are messes in this congregation that will not magically be cleaned up by the time Passover rolls around. But you know, when Moses was called to become a leader, the first thing he did was not to say, "A literal burning bush is talking to me in the voice of God, so that's pretty convincing, and yes, I should do this." No, he started to complain about all the things that were wrong with him as a person. I'm not a convincing speaker," Moses said. "I stutter. My speech is halting and slow. Pick someone else. I don't have any way to prove to people that what I say is true. Even if I know that you are God, pick someone else. Even if you give me miracles, if people try and then the world doesn't become better right away, they're going to lose hope and they're going to be mad at me. Pick someone else." He was right. Moses did tell the people. They came together to try and get free, saying, "We need to go into the wilderness and have a festival unto the Lord. We need to praise God." And they organized a work stoppage, a strike. And it didn't last long. Pharaoh said, "Fine, now your working conditions are worse. You can go and get your own straw to make bricks. since you have so much free time with all this organizing going on. In today's language, we might say he kind of converted it into a gig economy. Instead of just coming to the brick factory to make bricks with the earth and straw provided to them, he said, go out, disperse, use your own resources to get what you need to make our products. Also, quote is the same. Go out. Use your home office. There's no childcare provided for you anymore. Find your own way and pay for it. Or do the care yourself. But there will be no lower quotas. You're still responsible for your work. Go out and teach your classes. And you shall be named adjunct, and you shall have no benefits nor tenure. Your life shall be uncertain to you all the days of your lives. Or go out upon the highways and byways using your own car as a taxi for others, and you shall pay the upkeep and change your own oil, for it is your responsibility. There are so many comparisons we could be making. Sometimes things don't change for the better right away. The uncertainty continues, even when you try. But the thing I want to focus on is what happens next in the story. The Israelites' lives do get noticeably worse after their first attempt at organizing, and they are dispersed. They are not bound together by their shared failure, but each takes that shame of failure upon themselves, a testament to their personal insufficiency, rather than proof that the system itself is inhumane and oppressive. They think, I am a mess, and our organizing was a mess, instead of thinking perhaps, this system is a mess, and our resistance is worthwhile. And fair enough. The story is clear they've been living with this whole ridiculous system for generations. It takes courage to change things. It takes knowledge. Getting along outside of the homes and families and community that they've grown up in, that seems rough. And hey, here we are in Appalachia. And we've been living in some harder times recently, but let's be clear, life wasn't exactly easy in Appalachia for a long time before that. It's hard to know where exactly to start with a whole lifestyle in a country that makes living this way seem normal. That stress is just something you deal with. A little more self-care. Buy a bath bomb. It's hard to know what to do differently. But maybe we trust. Maybe we start by trusting in our people here. Maybe we start by practicing right here with one another what the world might look like, using our gifts and spending our time on things that aren't drudgery, but community building. Maybe we start by trusting one another, bringing up the things with which we are dissatisfied, having hard conversations or vulnerable ones. Maybe we make the first phone call to say there are some things that need to be said. They're hard to say, and they might be hard to hear. But let us be gentle with one another. Maybe we trust that even imperfect is enough to start. The Israelites, they didn't start as Jewish people do today by sweeping and mopping and clearing the chametz and making sure every counter is covered so your matzahs won't be contaminated. They started by throwing together the ingredients for bread and hoping it would rise, knowing they didn't have the time. And then when they were left with a thin cracker, saying, Oh well, safe enough to try, good enough to get started. And they went on the journey, just like that. Just like us. What we've been singing today, hymns that come from the Black experience especially, for there is so much resonance between oppressed people. What we've been singing is about freedom and justice and joy in that land where we're bound. But they also knew, just like us, that they'll be complaining in that land, and they'll be arguing in that land, and there'll be differences of opinions in that land, and people quietly suffering because their needs still aren't met yet where we're bound. But the gift of this moment and every moment that we have together is that the land where we're bound, it's the land where we're bound together. It's not so important how far we go or where the new place is, but that we get there together and that we spend our time on the way practicing so that by the time we find what was promised to us, it's there because we already made it. We've already made the beloved community that we hope for. And perhaps what we find is that we've been always enough for one another. Always able to do it if we try. So here we are. It's April of the last year that we will have together. And we have not finished the work of church, but we have practiced being a community together these last 3 years, even when it is hard. We've practiced having arguments. We've practiced making decisions together. We've worked to put things down on paper so that our children and their children will have a church that they can trust. And then we've worked to be flexible. We've built new systems. From air purification to audio-visual technology, things have changed. We've sewn masks, we've shared soup, we've offered groceries to those in need. We have been building out a community that we can be proud of. Sometimes our growth has been more in patience than in people. But we've embraced change. We're offering our space once again as people return to the world and to many activities. We're on a journey together. And when my part in that leadership of the journey ends, just as Moses knew and said he was not to reach the promised land with his people, I know, and you know, that you will continue on this journey, and there will be hope and love and justice and freedom that you make together, and that it isn't all striving and waiting and hoping, but the being together now and allowing space, even for crumbs and mess, and then cleaning up and celebrating what you have done. It will all matter. For you, each and every one of you, here in Indiana and in our greater community, all of you are unfinished works. But you are also enough. You are safe enough to try. You are good enough for now. You are beautiful, excellent, and worthy, just as you are. So know this to the very depths of your soul, and then go out and do the work of building, for it is time to be on our way.
Now for our closing words. I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way, but I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I have taken a moment here to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vistas that surround me, to look back on the distance I have come. But I can only rest for a moment, for with freedom comes responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not ended. And now for our closing prayer, number 116, I'm on my way.
I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. I asked my sisters, come and go with me. I asked my sisters, come and go with me. I asked my sisters, come and go with me. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. And I won't turn back. I'm on my way. And I won't turn back. I'm on my way. And I won't turn back. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way.
To join me in saying together our words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish our chalice flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Sisters, brothers, siblings, friends, let us recall these words by Hillel. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? May these questions carry you forward into your week. Blessed be.